Here at the Giver Marketing Network, we don't leave you drifting out in space. We connect you to a coach who will help you build and grow your marketing business. Our process acts as a guide on how to connect with other businesses, maintain good relations, and establish a presence on the Giver Marketing Network. Each member within this collaborative group will have the opportunity to leverage your talent and influence, a true network effect. If you are looking to collaborate on more projects, welcome to the Giver Marketing Network, the most trusted and highest rated collective of specialists on the planet. Here we have a group of like-minded professionals who focus on making valuable introductions and helping each other grow by teaming up. Imagine Upwork meets a network and a coach. The talent collectively includes services like visibility and SEO, creating logos, designing websites, managing social media, outreach messaging, visual storytelling, and much more. Think of what you could do with laser-focused allies, strengthening your business while offering your talents to the entire network. Click near this video for more information.
Hey y'all, so glad you're all here to join us today. This is Giver Marketing Network, and we're excited to have another masterclass. Today we're going to be talking about the 5 senses of branding, and I am so excited to have this topic. This is going to be so much fun, and I'm hoping some of our marketing professionals will pop in and give us a hand. Hey, Tim Salmonson's here playing with us today. Glad to have you here. We'll see as people pop in. We're going to try and get some experts in the room to help talk about this. We've got some things set up. We're going to talk about the 5 senses. And I'm sure, Tim, you talk about branding all the time. So I'm sure you're going to have some great input for us today, too. We're really looking forward to it. We wanted to do a shout out to some of our fans out there. Our Giver Marketing group is watching. We've also got Kingdom Warriors out there. Hey, y'all. Glad to have you here. So we're excited about sharing with you today because branding is such a complex topic, right? We're going to have some fun with it today. I don't know about you. I'm looking forward to this. Now, Tim, I know your background is in branding also. What do you emphasize when you're doing your branding?
Yeah, for me, branding is a kind of a 5-tiered process where we're talking about today is the aesthetic of the brand. Those are the 5 senses. That's the look and the feel and the taste and the smell and the sound of, how it feels. And to me, I, of course, am purpose driven. So having a clear sense of what your values are, so you're attracting the right people, have a clear sense of what your purpose is. What problem in the world are you solving? Knowing what your mission is, which is the pathway that you're leading your tribe down, your community. And then you've got a vision. That's the transformation message. Timothy Morgan talks a lot about the transformation story. That's vital in your brand because people want to know, why are you doing what you're doing? What makes you different than the competitors? What's your story personally as a founder? So that, as you share your story, people either connect with it or they don't connect with it. And obviously you want to connect with people that align with your story, that align with your values, and you're committed to your mutual success. So as a branding agency, our first and foremost commitment is to the success of the people that we're serving, because if they don't succeed, then we don't succeed, and we talk about that quite a bit in the network. So
absolutely, Tim. I always love your philosophy on that. And so we're going to take this whole 5 senses. We're going to tie in, I'm sure, some of the mission-driven vision stuff because we can't help ourselves. That's what we do, right? We're all about having a greater mission. I know for myself, I love working with the mission-driven organizations. And that doesn't mean it has to be a nonprofit, right? It can be a nonprofit, it can be a for-profit, it can be a solopreneur. You want to do good in the world, you're our kind of people, right? We want to hang out with you. We want to get to know you better, and we want to be able to help you with your mission. So we're going to have some fun today. I know with my background, I come from a teaching background. So communications has been what I've been doing for a really long time. And so this all ties in together. And I just get so excited about this kind of stuff. I thought we go ahead and pull up some slides here. Tim, you ready?
Ready.
All right, there it is. 5 senses of branding. I'm so glad Tim's here. I'm not running this solo. Thanks, Tim.
You bet.
Let's have some fun today. This is what it's about. So you think about your senses, right? But so my background, like I mentioned, is college professor, some sales background, marketing, networking. This is all tying together to me. This is all important part of your branding. So I know I apply branding with my business, right? Just my name alone, right? DFW Networking Diva is a brand. It symbolizes something, right? And Tim, I'm sure you've been carefully cultivating your brand also to try and attract the kind of people that are your kind of tribe, right?
That's right. Exactly.
That's what it's about. So networking coach, marketing coach, and done for you marketing services. And a lot of our people in the Giver Marketing Network do these kinds of things. They're going to help you with coaching along. They're going to help you figure out your strategies. In addition to, if you're going, I don't want to handle this, you take it, right? We've got people for that too. And that's what I love about our network, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
But today we are going to focus on the 5 senses of branding. Are we ready? All right, we're going to start off with the basics. What is branding? And you're going to laugh, but I've got the money on there because branding is money in your pocket, right? If people know who you are and they know to reach out to you because they're kind of people, right? Branding is going to put money in your pocket. So you want to make sure it's important. It is the first step of your marketing strategy. Some people would even say it's before, right? But a lot of us consider it part of, and the Giver marketing philosophy is that's really the first step of your marketing, figuring out who you are, right? Once you know that, then you can do everything else. Until then, right? You don't know who you are. Nobody else is going to know who you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Branding is the process where a business makes itself known to the public and differentiates itself from competitors. Branding typically includes a phrase, design, or idea that makes it easily identifiable to the public. There you go. There's our textbook definition right there. But branding is so much more hands-on than that, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
If you think about some of your favorite brands, right? Yeah, what do they mean to you, right? Who do you think are some great examples of branding, Tim? Do you have any ideas off the top of your head? And you're like, man, that they got some great branding.
Well, I think anyone who can sell sugar water and have such a following around the world has really figured out their branding. So I don't know if you can guess who that might be, but there
Well,
are a
and I was
couple.
just thinking water in general, right? I was talking to somebody
Yeah.
recently. They're, old school. They're like, I don't pay for water. It comes out of the tap, right? So there's a whole generation that's like, of course we pay for water. And the whole generation's going, I don't think so, right? So how's that for branding, right? You've
Exactly.
convinced us
Yeah.
we need it. I love it, right? So branding is a big part of a company, right? It says a lot about their culture. It all ties together so nicely. Let's take a look. So know your brand. Here you go, Tim. What are your company's values? There's your question right there.
That's
You
right.
want to elaborate?
Well, that's what it all starts with. I think as people, especially solopreneurs or people who are starting a business, they get ahead of themselves, and we talk about this a lot in the network. You start running ads, and you're trying to figure out how can you get your product or service out there. And the first thing that we need to do is nail down, I say 3 to 5 immutable values. These are the values that you can remember, that your team can remember, and then consequently your community. Because I think that branding is building a community. I'm surprised at how many people are kind of okay with the transactional approach to the way they run their business. And we always say in my space, think transformational, not transactional. So we're really walking with our brand, our clients, and even our team members in a process of their own transformation, of elevating them, of elevating our clients and those people within the scope of our influence. So all of our stakeholders. And the only way that you attract them is if they know and understand what those 3 to 5 immutable, unchangeable values are. And the only way that those values have value, are valuable, is when you are challenged, when those values are challenged and you maintain them. So that's I wrote a book, and I almost called it the purpose paradox, because that's the paradox. Is if you the part of purpose is not the have a statement out there of this is our when you take action and people see the transformation that's happening. And that's where a lot of brands get into trouble, is they say, we care about people on the planet, but the way they act is they care about profit. That's the thing that's above all things.
That's a great point, right? And if are your values shining through in all levels of your business, right? Like you said, if you've got a challenge, which way do you go? Right? I love your explanation on that. What a great explanation. Thank you. Right? When we talk about branding, right, it represents the sum total of experiences that carve out your reputation, right? This is what people think about, right? How they feel when they experience your company, right? So when you take those values and those are translated well into your brand, right, they're going to get that feeling of whatever it is those values are. Right. So if you're on a mission to do good, and people are looking at this now, right? They're looking at the social consciousness. They're expecting more out of their companies now than just a buy-sell transaction. They want to know what you stand for. They want to know, are you donating to the community? Are you giving back in some way? How are you helping? Right. This is a huge part of what we expect out of our brands now. And if you're not doing that, right, you're really on the transactional level, right? You're not building that community and pulling those followers in. And when you look at, the dedicated people they're your consumers, they're your clients, and they're not going anywhere else. Why? Because they love you. They love your brand, specifically your values and what you're standing for. And I think what we run into a lot is, what about sharing your brand? Sometimes that's a hard part for new business owners, right? They're not quite sure what their brand is, so they don't know what to share. They're afraid to say what they stand for. And nobody can align with you and want to follow you if they don't know who you are. Whatever it is that's important, you got to share it. Otherwise, nobody knows.
Yeah, I think Seth Godin says it the best. He talks about, find the most narrow niche that is sustainable, right? So it's a narrow niche that supports you enough that you can develop your brand, and your tribe is so specialized. Like I just came across I was in the gym yesterday, and I told the guy that I was having trouble with my knees. Lifetime of athletics, and that's not uncommon. And he said, I found a guy, he's a knee guy in the space of health and wellness, like dedicated to strengthening your knee. And he has carved out a niche it's wonderful, because that's my problem. I need a knee guy, and the more specialized the person is, the more I'm going to trust them. And I think that is also another important thing to remember when you're carving out your space in your market, is niche down to a place where you are so specialized that there may not be a huge number of people, but the people who are attracted to you are going to be faithful, and they're going to tell their friends, and you're going to grow your brand, from that specialization.
Absolutely. When you think about it, so what does so-and-so do? Oh, something something generic. They can't share. When you go, oh no, they work on needs. You're like, oh, right. It's so clear. There's no vagueness. There's no confusion. They know exactly what it is. And like you said, if you just kind of niche in, somebody's looking for exactly what you're offering. So don't be afraid to share those values, right? And make that shine and be an important part of the culture of your business and what you're doing with your brand, right? That's huge. So when we talk about sensory branding, why sensory branding, right? Why are we even caring about this? How is this a thing, right? We talk about sensory and brand. It's a sensory branding, focusing on using sensory appeals to associate with your brand. You're like, really? People think about that? Well, they might not be thinking about it consciously, but subconsciously, right? Things are coming through, right? Sensory and emotion. Right? Sensory appeal is attached to an emotion. So you might have something that triggers a memory, right? Or it triggers a feeling, and you don't even remember what memory it's attached to, right? And all that can come through on the branding. Emotion and connection, right? The deeper you can connect emotionally with your followers, the more likely they are to remember your brand. Right? That makes sense. Right? And then connection and engagement, more likely to remember, engage more, they're going to be more loyal and more likely to purchase. right? So this is all how the senses kind of tie in with your brand and how you're helping to create those followers and that sense of community.
Mm-hmm.
All right, jumping into those 5 senses. All right, hopefully everybody knows it. So if you don't know the 5 senses, we're sending you back to school. Right? So we're going to talk about sight and smell and sound and taste and touch, right? We're going to hit all the basics on this one. And there's other ones on the curve, but we're going to stick with these basic old true ones. All right. So when we talk about branding and we're talking about sight, the things that pop in our mind right away, right? Right away, right? Logos. We are like, oh, I need a logo for my business. Oh, I need a website for my business. Oh, there needs to be photos, right? Colors, video, all that kind of stuff is kind of the sight things that we think of. But it really ties into so much more than that, right? And even this would keep you busy for a while, just coming up with what you want to visually represent who you are, what your culture is, what your business is, right? I mean, your logo can be plain, it can be simple, and even then you see it change over time. You might update it so that it is more current, more reflects what you're doing now. Sometimes your business might transform from the beginning, right? Sometimes they'll do a total rebrand and do a whole new logo. What do the colors symbolize inside the logo? Right? Some of the favorite logos that I'm thinking of are ones that we recognize and we don't even have to think twice, right? That's when your logo's gone big, right? When people look at it and they go, oh, and they can just name it right off the bat. And whereas we'd love something like that, not all businesses are ever going to get that big or have that kind of social recognition, but you want it within your community. And I think that's more important than anything else to me. When we think about branding and websites, right? That's a big thing. We're always looking for visuals on. Does the content reflect your brand? Does it look pretty? I don't know about you, Tim, but when's the last time you saw a website that wasn't updated? Mm-hmm. Have you seen one of those recently?
Yeah, all the time.
Right. And then you're like, it says copyright at the bottom, right? Be like and it's like 1990. You're like, oh. Right.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So if you're not even updated, what does that say about your brand? Mm-hmm. Are you still in business? Do you care? I mean, you know what I mean? There's so many different things that come across. So if you haven't updated your website in a while, it might be a good idea to go in and give it a little refresher. Make sure it's loading, it's working. There's nothing worse than, we're so impatient, right? We get so impatient. We go to a website and we want it like that, right? We want that sucker to load and it should be ready to go within like 3 seconds. If it's not ready in 3 seconds, we're like, oh, it's broken, and we bounce. So you got to make sure that that's up to date, because what does that say when they go to your website and they're waiting, or then they get some kind of error message, or you're like, oh, yeah, I don't know if I want to hire them. They don't really know what they're doing, right? That's brutal, right? So there's so many ways to just build your brand through the whole site side of it, right? Here we go. Brand recognition. Do you know them?
Mm-hmm, of course.
You got all those down, right? All right. Does everybody else recognize those out there? We know who these are? Because otherwise, if you don't recognize these ones, you probably need to, get a little bit more in touch with pop culture. Mm-hmm. But we recognize these. You notice these don't even have names on them. Right? They may have started with names on their logos, but then over time, as they got more and more brand recognition, they didn't even need that anymore, right? If you recognize these, you're like, yeah, those are the big hitters, right? We recognize what these are. Let's see. So we've got more site, right? So branding pictures. Pictures are huge. Right? When we think about it, we've got so many opportunities to interact, and whether this is your social media, right? Or whether this is on your website, whatever it is, we're looking for, photos being a big part of that. I think it's really important to, for example, on your website, have a picture of your face on there so we know who you are, right? With your bio and your story, right? We want to see who you are. It's kind of like when you do a Zoom call versus doing a phone call, right? When we actually get to see you, remember your face, your facial expressions, we feel a little bit more connected. Doesn't mean that you can't connect through phone, but we've kind of gotten into this habit in our society, right, where we're expecting that face-to-face. Faces go a long way. Right? We're talking about the whole color side. So colors have meanings. What? Right? This is a color chart, right? You can do some research on it, but it talks about what kind of emotions and feelings are evoked when different colors are displayed. And they've done tons of research on this, right? People have spent money figuring out the perfect colors to do whatever it is. And so a lot of times we'll see green representing money or environment, or right. So we'll see different colors. Giver marketing, we have red, right? We're always doing red and white and black. And so excitement, youthful, active, leader, passionate, right? Powerful, radical, excited, bold, energy, confident, right? I think that pretty much that's a great description of giver marketing right there.
Mm-hmm.
So coming up with things that really reflect your logo. So I think a lot of people go, oh, well, I like this style. And then, well, I like these colors. Okay, but do these colors represent what you're trying to say? Sometimes we have to stop and ask ourselves. We can't always just do it because we like it. We have a bigger picture here.
Exactly.
All right. So we talked a little bit about the branding and the site. Was there any other ideas that were popping through your head while we were talking about that, Tim?
Yeah, I think that we're a lot of folks that are missing huge opportunities on their website when they don't have imagery that reflects who their audience is. They just use stock photos. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like the puppies and the babies, of course, everyone likes puppies and babies, but if your brand is not reflective of puppies and babies, then there's going to be the cognitive dissonance. It's just going to be a disconnect from what you really want to represent. And your imagery should also speak to the transformational message, that storyline that you're trying to tell, of people that are happy. And I mean, most brands are moving people into a place where they're feeling excited or fulfilled or rewarded, or accomplishing the thing that they want to accomplish or aspiring to. So if you have, if you're in let's say you're a dog groomer, you want obviously great looking, depending on the kind of dogs that you groom, great looking, well-groomed dogs and very happy owners. That is the message that you want to send to people. So think about because it's true, words speak 1,000 words. So I mean, images speak 1,000 words. So how do you put the kind of images on your website that tell the story of the transformation that you create for your clients?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm just thinking, I work with a lot of veterans. And so we do a lot with the patriotism. We do a lot with the flag, eagles, right? Strong American symbols, right? The colors, the red, white, and the blue, right? Very common in that culture. And so that really helps resonate with those when they're appealing to the veterans, right? So it's kind of like, this is my tribe, and I'm letting you know I'm part of this tribe. You like my values, come hang out with me, right? And they build their tribe that way. So it has an impact. Let's see, is there a way to, I missed the question. Is there a way to automatically keep updating your site? We'll just pop in the questions as we go, because I think he's referring back to when we're talking about our websites, right? You want to have somebody whose job is to go in, whether it's a full-time person, a part-time person, depending on the size of your company, right? You might just have a freelancer or somebody, or hire a company to give you a hand. Go in there and make sure your website's updated.
I think the best way to keep your website updated, quote unquote, is to tie your blog to it. So when you have a new blog post, it just drops into one of the frames that are going to be down on your website, so that you have all the wording, the content, the imagery is going to be consistently scrolling and updating the website. So that's a thought.
Well, and when you go in, that's talking about adding new content. But I'm thinking also, if you have a WordPress, you need to make sure those plugins are updated, right? So you want to make sure you have somebody dedicated to maintaining the maintenance, to make sure your website is still strong and going well. And like I said, when you go to post those blogs, go in and take a look at your website. Make sure everything's working like it's supposed to. Make sure those links are still working, right? It's an important thing, because like we said, if you're not up to date, right, you're not leaving a good impression with the people that are coming to visit. Right. Absolutely. I'm thinking about talking about sites. Should we move on to our next sense, maybe? Sounds. Here we go. All right. Sounds, for me, a lot of times it's going to be a puppy barking in the background. That's not intentionally part of my brand, but it seems to be lately. So when we think about sounds, right? There's a lot of different options, right? The jingles, right? Tim, can you remember a jingle from when you were young and you still
Hmm.
remember it today?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, there's the Big Mac.
Decades later,
Yeah,
and it's
I
still
can
in
trace
your
it.
head, and you hear it and you smile and you remember the brand, even if the brand's no longer around.
Yeah, yeah. 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. I can say that in my sleep.
Exactly what I'm talking about. Now that's some branding, right?
Yeah.
That's your jingles, your taglines, your slogans, the music, the voiceovers, the sound effects, right? All of that kind of ties into all the sounds that what people think of when they hear your
Oh, what is going on in here? It's okay, relax. Watch this. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Hey, Dave.
Wow. Is that your agent? It's the jingle. Try it. No. Like a good
Just say
neighbor,
it.
State Farm is there.
With a sandwich.
Oh,
So did
With
you
the sandwich.
with the sandwich, right? So, when you think about it, there's little jingles like that we hear, and you're like, oh, yeah, right? Or a spokesperson, right? And their voice is associated with that brand over and over again, right? You think about it, 75% of customers will stay in a store if they enjoy the music.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. Sometimes I'll choose
true.
where I'm going to eat based on the ambiance, right? It's good food, good ambiance. I enjoy the music. I can sit back and relax, talk to friends. It's like, yeah, that really is true. And we don't think about it, right?
Yeah.
You have to consciously think about it. So what are you channeling into your sound if you've got a, brick and mortar store, right? What kind of sounds are you playing there? Is it a whole lot of nothing? Is it screaming babies and barking dogs? What's going on here?
Yeah. Yeah, I hate it when you go to an ethnic restaurant, like a Chinese place, and they're playing the best of the 80s. It's like with the radio, with the commentator. It's like, okay.
And the little radio box sitting on the corner.
Yeah, exactly.
I hear you. It would be nice to have something feel like an authentic experience, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. Branding on to smell. I think we go back. Let's talk a little bit more about sound, though. Your tagline, right? What's that saying about your business? Your slogans, right? The music, the voiceovers. What other things are popping to mind when you think of sounds?
Yeah, when you have let's say you have a YouTube channel, and the intro and the extro pieces should be have a soundbite that reflects your brand. And I think of some of my favorite YouTube channels. When I hear that music, it should just be one of those YouTubes on autoplay, and as soon as I hear that, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna like what the content's gonna be, because I like this commentator, and I associate it with his intro.
Right. And think about the brand recognition you have, right? If you've got the TV playing in the background and all of a sudden you hear, you're like, oh.
Yeah, my favorite TV show's on, or whatever.
Exactly. You start paying attention to it, right? We really start associating those sounds with whatever that show is. So it really does have a big impact on us.
Absolutely.
Well, so think about, don't want to run out of time to talk about all of our different options. Let's talk about smell. The smell sense is very strong, right? Some people like strong smells, some people don't, some people have allergies. I'm one of those people, right? Smell is a big part of your brand, right? So location, does the location you're at, does it smell, and is it good or is it not in a good way? The personal hygiene, right? If you're not smelling good, your breath isn't smelling good, right? All these smells have an impact. And a lot of times we don't take the time to think about smells with our business. Right. I don't know about you.
Think about
go ahead.
The coffee shop, you're walking down the street, you smell the coffee, or you smell the fresh baked goods, or every time I'm in a mall, you get anywhere close to a Bed Bath and Beyond, you got all that aroma just coming out of the storefront of the oils and whatever moisturizers and whatever they got going on.
I don't know. I don't know about you, but I can't pass a bread store without going, what? Fresh bread? Am my little nose just goes like a little beeline right for it. I can't help myself, right? And those smells are really tied to memories, right? It might and it might be reminiscent of when you were younger. It might be, remembering doing something with somebody that makes you smile, or it could be the other way around where it's a strong memory and you have a negative association. Like for a long time, the smell of hot dogs just wasn't working for me from after I was pregnant. When I had my kids, both of them, I was pregnant. Oh my God, the smell of hot dogs, I wanted to die. So smells can be really strong way or the other. It's kind of crazy. I
had that one time. I showed up at a funeral of a good friend of mine before it was, another part of the state. I drove hours to get there, and I didn't realize I was there so early. And I went into the funeral parlor. She was there. She laid out, and the smell of the flowers to this day give me the memory of her and how sad I was at the time. So it's amazing that something like a flower could kind of ignite in your memory that moment, that time when you're alone with this person that you did life with and they're no longer with you.
Right. And flowers, really, we think about flowers a lot of times are a special occasion smell, right? So it's attached to whether it's a first date and somebody brings you flowers, a corsage, or a mum when you go to the prom, or at a funeral.
Weddings.
Right. So and weddings. Oh yeah, all over the place in weddings, right? So it really does. If we think about flower scents, right? And we're going to associate it with probably a strong feeling somewhere and some kind of special occasion, whether that's a happy one or a sad one. Yeah. I mean, think about we've got candles and cupcakes and coffee, right? It's amazing how this smells. Like, I'm a big fan of the little wax things with the different scents in there, right? And I'll have those burning, or people like the essential oils, right? So you got to think about, what kind of, when you think of your company and your brand, what should it smell like?
Yeah.
What does that even mean, right? You kind of have to stop and think about it. I don't know about you, but I've gone into the one of the motorcycle dealerships, and the smell they pump into there intentionally. I'm like, oh, I'm dying. I got to go. It is so strong. My eyes start watering. But I'm like that with incense too. I've gone into a store and the incense was so strong. I literally I would shop here, but I can't breathe in here. And I turned around and I left, A lot of times we get, what is it? Nose blind? Is that when the commercials that they talked about nose blind, and they've, the smell of dogs and all that kind of stuff. Right. But it's true. We get used to it. It's kind of like when you put cologne on. Right. At first, this seems like enough. And then after a while, your nose gets used to it and you think you need to put more on. And we've all been in a room
with that
where
guy.
Somebody's cologne is so overpowering. You're like, oh man, I'm dying. What are you doing? Everybody else is in this meeting, but you're sitting outside. Sorry, buddy.
Yes.
Exactly. It has an impact, right? So what are you saying about yourself? If through personal branding, what are you saying about your company, right? If you've got a location, right? These are all things to kind of keep in mind. Like I mentioned, the incense and the motorcycle, there it is. Those are some really strong ones.
Christine, when I saw this slide at first, I thought that was a laptop that was on fire. So the smell of a burning laptop overheating is not an association you want to have with your brand.
Right. Especially if you, do work on the computer, it's like, oh, I'm such a techie. My laptop is lit on fire. maybe that's part of the brand. It could be. We could work that. I'm just saying it's possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's our smells, right? And location, personal hygiene. So over half of a person's emotions are a result of smells and scents. That seems like a lot, doesn't it? When you hear that number, over half of a person's emotions are a result of smells and scents. And positive emotions.
I've heard well over before. I've heard, the thing that triggers our memory the most is our sense of smell.
And positive emotions are a direct correlation to willingness to spend and buy. So if you're going in, somebody's coming in to visit your location, you're a storefront, right? Positive emotions. So we want things that are going to evoke positive emotions when they walk in. Ooh, that's a tall order, isn't it? I love it. Okay, branding, taste. I love this one. I can't help it. I love food. I'm a foodie. Right. So when it comes to branding your taste, right, we're thinking, oh, it's so easy for food, right? When you're a restaurant, when you're a coffee shop, when you write something, we can just salivate just thinking about it, you know? That's nice and easy. But what about those that aren't actually working at a restaurant, right? Or, you know, that's not your business. If your business is not selling food, how do you do this? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have your food products, right? You can partner, associate with other food products, right? So maybe you have a partner. For example, I know with like strip malls, right? You've got businesses all right next to each other. And if you wanted to do some cross promotion, right, you could have treats from next door, samples. You could have, right, coffee from the place right down the street. And maybe they have some of your flyers up in their business. You could do some partnerships with that and have a little fun. You know, what snacks and beverages do you have available? Now, we were talking about your values, your culture, right? Stop for a moment and think about how does what you have available to your client base or your customers, how does that reflect who you are and what's important to you and your culture and your whys and your values?
Yeah, I think about from a social economic standpoint, if you're trying to reach a high dollar, high value client or customer, obviously, you know, putting out a bowl of M&Ms is not going to have the same impact as Thin Mints, you know, or, you know, something that's individually wrapped, or, you know, something that, you know, it's going to obviously appeal more to a higher. And I think about, you know, when I get my oil changed at the dealership that I go to, they have, you know, a high-end coffee machine that, you know, does all the sexy. You can choose from a frappuccino or, you know, mocha, whatever, and they typically have donuts, and, you know, they're just wanting you to have a positive experience as you're waiting there for your oil to be changed. So
those car dealerships and all that, yep, they usually have something there to kind of keep you entertained. Yeah, I love it. I know, like I said, as a foodie, I'm like, You just throw out that bowl of peanuts, right? Versus you know, the bar mix, right? What quality are we talking about here? And even though you're offering little mints as you go out the door, what's going on, right? So there's a lot of options. So a lot of times people don't take the time to think about it, right? And if you're going to host an event and you're not going to host it at your place, right? Host it at a location that serves food, right? Get your brand associated with the deliciousness of the local barbecue joint. I'm in Texas, so that's important. But there's so many options when it comes to taste. So if your business is not a food business, there are other ways to kind of bring that in a little bit. Okay, touch, hands-on. Are we ready? Let's do hands-on. Now, these are things a lot of times you might not think about, and you think about what you like versus what your clients might like. And sometimes there's a difference, right? Right off the bat, temperature, right? Texture, product wrapping, product feel, right? And I don't know about you, but I like things cool, but I've been known to freeze people. They're looking like, oh my goodness, what in the world, right? So if you keep your location so cold that your clients like come and leave as fast as possible, you're probably not doing much for your sales.
Exactly.
Just the opposite side, right? If it's too hot, right? I'm like, oh no, there's a restaurant that I like that's down the street, but they tend to keep their air conditioning. I don't know if they even have any, right? And you go in and you're sitting there, okay, I'm sweating while I'm eating. I just want to cool off and relax while I'm eating. You know, instead I'm sweating bullets. I'm like, I don't want to eat here. And I literally only go to that restaurant during the cooler times of the year. And even then, half the time, if you're not going regularly, you forget they even exist, right? So let's not freeze people out or overheat them, right? You can talk about your products. Texture, right? How pretty is it with the wrapping, right? There's something cool about it. I have to say a lot of the MLMs that deliver product, right? Do they ever just hand you the box? Here you go. Right? It's in a pretty bag. It's got tissue paper. It looks all pretty. It touches. You got to unwrap it and unveil it like a gift. It's not a gift. You paid for that.
That's right.
But in our minds, because we get to unwrap it, it's special and it's a gift.
think about like your business card. I know my business card is on recycled paper, so people see it and they're like, oh, this is kind of interesting. It's different. It's tied to an investment into the planet, so to speak. I mean, that's part of what I want my brand to reflect. So I have a business card it looks weird, it's all this brown paper things, but
that reflects your values as your brand and what's important to you, right? Other ones I've seen, they have like little fuzzy ones. They feel like little felt, right? And you're like, ooh, that's kind of neat, right? You just kind of want to play with it for a little bit. But things that make you memorable, right? Little things like that. Right. So whether it's the branding touches, whether you're going to unwrap the Kiss, like you said, individually wrapped items, right? Once again, the whole Kiss candy thing is all about unwrapping and revealing your present, right? Pens, right? Are they good to hold? Are they not? Sometimes there'll be pens that are so big, I can't hold them well. They're cute, they're decorative, but you can't actually use them. They're not functional. Are you seeing where they put like flowers and things at the top of the pen so you don't walk off with their pen? That's a cute way to keep your stuff here without them walking off with it, but at the same time it's still functional, right? I wouldn't want to write with it long term, but for just signing something, right, that can work. But there's a lot of fun things you can do when it comes to touch. Let's see, anything else popping in your head on the touch side of this, Tim?
When I think about touch, I consider in what you're talking about, the emotion of what that particular texture is delivering. And if you're a brand like what's that water brand that is really edgy? It's hilarious. Death Water, I think it is. Something Death. And
that's nice.
Yeah, and it's hilarious. They have the advertisement of the kids that are like they're pounding these waters, but they're presented in cans that look like beer cans. Liquid Death, I think that's what it's called.
Oh, wow.
And their marketing and branding is so awesome. It's comical. It is memorable because you have this vision of kids just getting trashed on this liquid death, which is just water, but it's in a can. So I think of that being kind of prickly, like heavy metal. That is what comes to mind when I think of that product. So they're looking to kind of be a little prickly because they want to push on your senses in a way that, well, one, you're alive, or like, wow, that really gets my attention. So it's okay to have a prickly brand as long as it lines up with, the audience that your values and the people that you're trying to bring together. I think
disruption, right? That's kind of the new thing is the idea of disruption. So we want to shock you. We want to awe you. We want to do something that's different. We represent different. At some point, everybody's so different. You're like, okay, and
yeah, right.
That's exactly what it is, right? I was just thinking about touch also is things that when you use a product, how does it feel? Right. And there's times that you like the idea of something, but then when you pick it up and you try and use it, it just doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? It's awkward. It's too heavy. Whatever it is. I was just thinking as the dog was eating the tape off the barbells, that we had something wrapped around where you hold the barbells because it wasn't comfortable on your hands. Right. So how the people that are going to use your products, how are they going to use it? And are they going to like using it? If they don't like to use and they don't like the way it feels, they're probably not going to. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so our 5 senses of branding today, we did the sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. Covered a lot, really. And I appreciate you being here as my sidekick today, Tim. We've got, if you want to reach out to me, right, you take a picture of that QR right there, and that'll put you to my business card, which is my electronic business card. And feel free to book an appointment with me. We'll also scroll that. The other thing is Tim, I want to share your contact information because you've been hanging out with us today, and I want you on there too.
Sure, I appreciate that.
Why? Because you rock. So we definitely want that on there. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll. I'm running tech and doing it today. So we're having lots of fun today. I know, right? This is like exciting
multitasking
stuff. Big time. Love it. So you want to book a consultation with me? I also have a bit.ly. So it's bit.ly, right? /diva freebie, because I love giving free consultations. I love this stuff is just fun. You know, you're in the right place when you finish a phone call with a client or a Zoom call, and you're more excited than when you started it, right? That's how we have fun. You know, you're doing the right thing that you love, right? Tim, you want to drop your booking link for me?
Oh, absolutely. Sorry.
Into the private chat, and I'll drop it up here on the screen, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So giver marketing is just one of my favorite playgrounds. It's just a group of marketers that this is what we do, and we love what we do, right? And everybody's got their niches and their specialties and what they like to do well, whether it's branding, whether it's nurturing, right? There's so many different options, and whatever it is that you're looking for, we have coaches that'll help walk you through it, right? We also have marketers that'll help you execute what you need to execute. So we have so many different options out here for you to take advantage of. And so don't hesitate, right? We're here for you. And that's why we do these masterclasses. What we'd love would be, what kinds of things would you like to hear about, right? What kind of topics would you like to see a masterclass? Because that's the kind of stuff we want to put together for you. So you say, reach out to Tim. I'm going to go ahead and scroll that across the bottom also, because Tim rocks. So whoever you want to talk to, that's fine. We love it. So if there's something that you've been thinking about when it comes to your marketing, and you're like, gosh, I've really been wanting to try this, but it's not my specialty, and I'm not quite sure how to get started with that, we have people. Just come talk to us. We love to help with this kind of stuff. If there's a topic that you're going, man, that's really something I've been wanting to learn, talk to us. We probably have somebody in the network that knows it, right? There's so many options, and marketing is such a broad area, right? So whatever it is, let us know. Drop some comments in chat. Let us know, because otherwise we don't know if you don't tell us, right? So drop those comments in chat so we can help out and put some topics on this masterclass that you guys want to really hear about. Now, we've been expanding the network, Tim. You know, not only are we doing masterclasses on Tuesdays, but we are also doing a Wednesday networking, and it's networking for marketers, which is way fun, right? A lot of times marketing is such a specialized field that people only have one area of specialty, and really your marketing, you have a lot of different areas. Marketing plans are big, right? They have all sorts of things that you touch with that. So we want to bring all those marketers together so they can help each other, because the more resources we have, the better we can serve our clients. So if you're a marketer, we would love to have you show up and hang out with us on Wednesdays. That's at 8 a.m. on the Pacific Coast and 11 on the East Coast. And I know we don't have to say the one, but I'm in the middle, and I'm in Dallas, and I want to be represented. It's at 10 o'clock Central Time. I'm just saying. So if you go to givermarketing.com/networking, sign up, come hang out with us, totally free. And I'm thinking at some point we're probably going to do some kind of networking event for our business owners too. But right now we're just doing our marketers. So if you know a marketer, tag them, tell them to come hang out with us. If you're a marketer, come hang out with us, because we're going to have a lot of fun. This group is really, I love what we do. I just do.
Great.
Thank you, Tim, so much for being here. Is there anything else you wanted to share today that I forgot?
No, I when it comes to the aesthetic, that's what I call it, the aesthetic side of your brand. This is just a wonderful exercise, even if you're not necessarily employing the actual, creating smells or creating the way it feels, for you to think about what your brand feels like, or what it smells like, or sounds like, or tastes like. It is going to help you to narrow in your the way that you show up in the world, the way that your brand shows up, and what people are what you're going to be remembered for. Because ultimately, you ask yourself the question, what do you want to be remembered for? That to me speaks to noble purpose. That's your why. The next question is, what are you known for? Because if they're not lining up, then that's a good indicator that your branding is off the mark, that you need to think through, okay, why is it that people think that we sell sugar water when we actually are selling an experience? This family, friends, togetherness, celebrations of holidays. When you think of Coca-Cola, for example, that's what they want to be remembered for, known for, is at every celebration, every event, they want to be highlighted as an integral part or a vital part of that celebration. So they work hard at creating that ethos. So that's not an original. Those questions are not original. That is from a guy. He's a ex-Chick-fil-A uppity up, who has his own coaching business. I think his name's Jeff Hendricks or Hendrickson. And he has What Are You Known For? He has a book that's What Are You For? I highly recommend it because it's right on point with getting your brand out there, and just walking through a process of understanding or helping people understand what your brand is supposed to be promoting and how it's transforming the world or transforming people. So
that's a great point, Sam. That's a great point, though. When you think about it, right? What does your brand represent, or what do you want it to represent versus what it really looks like to outsiders, right? And sometimes market research required in order to figure that out, right? That happens. You got to figure out what the reality is versus what you'd like it to be. And if you're not clearly defining your brand, however you do that, right? Whatever sense you decide to do it through, if you're not clearly defining it, then something else may be, and you may not even realize it. Right. So you want to make those conscious decisions rather than just having it happen by default. So take the branding wheel just grab it and steer it where you want it to go, because otherwise something else is going to dictate what your brand is. And you want to be the one that controls that. I love it. So join us next Tuesday for another masterclass, and we're going to have fun. Thanks, Tim. Glad you're here with me today.
Yes. Thanks, Christine.